So 3 years ago, hell, it's been 3 years, that's crazy. 3 years ago, the guys from Custom Speaker Pods came by and we did an install on my truck. Let's take a look. You guys remember when we did that? Well, today, I came to them. So yes, I did. I drove here to customspeakerpods.com.
Yes.
And they're only a good, hour and a half drive, maybe 2 hours in some traffic. Wasn't too bad. It's a Saturday morning, so it's like, it was perfect drive. Nice and cold outside. I'm cutting glass over here. I really am.
As am I. It's all right.
All right, so
We'll blur it out in post.
So you guys remember we did the Vex 8 in my doors. We did a single Vex 8, and that was the first time I believe you guys have done a single 8 for the, I have an 07 Sierra. And since then you've been making those and selling them, so that's cool. And I believe you've come out with a 10-inch now, and we're going to go a little crazy today, folks. We're going to do the NeoPro 12-inch. So I'm not doing Vex 12, that would sit out pretty far, but we are going to go ahead and do the NeoPro because they're shallow. And if you guys haven't watched the video that we did at SEMA about the NeoPro 12, you have to check it out. I'll put a link for it in the description here. So on top of that, now if you guys remember, we did the BT tweeters in my A pillars. We're going to do a big upgrade then as well. So we've got the HF-R35. This is a new tweeter that we've come out with. Well, fairly new. It's been out for a few months now. This is a high fidelity super tweeter. It should mix very well with the single NeoPro 12 that we're going to put in the doors. I don't plan on doing any other speakers, so again, it's just going to be a single mid in the door and a single tweeter in the A pillar. And that should be more than enough because the dB rating on both of these speakers is quite up there. It's in the 90s. So this is going to be a very loud system. I still haven't really messed with the subwoofer side of this truck yet. I have a single XV310, which is good enough for me, honestly, but as soon as the Z8 comes out, we're actually going to do 2 of the Z8s under the back seat and do a custom box whenever I have time to do that. For now, we're going to go ahead and get these new pods in the doors. And Brandon, let's talk about what we have going on over here. This, first and foremost, let's just do a comparison. Let's lift this one up. So this is what's in my door now, which is huge, by the way. And this is what's going in there today, and it is outrageously massive.
Monster. So previous to the introduction of the new NeoPro V4s, right, people have always asked me, Brandon, can you make a pod for a 10-inch? No, I won't. And the reason was because most 10-inch speakers are either too heavy or too deep.
Yeah, it's often a depth issue for sure.
Yeah, I could have made it, but you'd have to cut metal and do all this other stuff, which is what I try to avoid when making speaker pods, to make everything really easy to install. But the introduction of the new NeoPros, the 10-inch, and even the 12-inch, it's only a depth of about 3 inches.
Yeah.
So it's the same depth as a regular 6.5, and that lends itself extremely well to speaker pods. Not only the depth, but the lightweight nature of these speakers.
Correct.
It's absolutely incredible for these products.
Since these are Neo, look, I could one-hand this 12-inch speaker, and it's extremely loud and extremely clean, so you're not losing anything going with the shorter depth or the lightweightness of the Neo magnet. Now, I guess we could have went ahead and just done a Vex 8 to a Vex 12, but we would have had to made the pod a little bit bigger, and or I would have had to cut my door more than we already did.
That's right, yeah.
And we don't want to bleed again this time.
No, we're going to bleed today anyway. We're going to be installing sound deadener, so some blood will be shed.
Blood was shed. If you guys haven't seen that video, blood was shed by both of us.
Yep.
He bled first, I think, and his was pretty bad.
It was a good one.
And then, because we We had trouble with finding tools to cut the door properly, and I don't remember what I was using, but I cut the hell out of my hand.
Yep.
So we both put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that last video.
That's right.
And we're not going to bleed today.
We're not going to bleed today?
We might have some tears, though.
Okay. So the good thing about this whole install is that, you know, the depth of the speaker isn't that much. If this was a fresh install, we wouldn't have to cut any metal, simply because of the depth of the speaker and the depth of the pod. Everything works together so well, it wouldn't require any metal cutting.
Yeah. The only thing I think we have to test fit, we haven't test fit it yet, but the pods for the A-pillar with the HF tweeter, this is a very deep super tweeter. Depending on the depth that we work with, we may have to cut some of the plastic on the A-pillar.
Yep.
Not a big deal to me. It's my truck. I don't care.
Yep.
I've cut this truck so many times anyway.
That's right.
It's the way it goes.
You know, and the truth is, with the majority of, if not all, the speaker pods that we manufacture, is you're going to have to cut plastic, right? And that's part of it. That's part of the sacrifice to the stereo.
You're
pods.
customizing your own vehicle. You have to cut things sometimes.
That's right. But the goal, as always, is to avoid cutting metal, because it's a pain in the butt, requires more tools, and
then you bleed.
And then you bleed. That's right.
So it looks like over here you're now doing brass inserts for the screws for the speakers?
That's correct. So we have introduced these brass inserts as an option for installation of the speakers. The reason we did that is, you know, we see a lot of people install speakers with drywall screws.
We don't.
You know, a lot of the hardware that people use isn't correct, right? So we used to recommend using the same hardware that we install the speaker pod with, which is a machine screw and a nylock nut on the back, and that gives you a very secure.
And that's what we did on,
that's what we did there.
Our vehicle.
But the problem with that is you have to install the speaker before you install the door panel.
Okay.
Which lends a couple problems. You have to have everything wired up, and then you have to slap the panel on. The good thing about this is that you can install the speakers last. So what that means is you get the the pod installed on the door panel, you get the door panel installed on the car, then you can bring your wires to the speaker, get everything hooked up correctly, and then install the speaker last.
I think it was a couple months after I did the install on my truck, I did a whole other video of putting on some Deadener on the back.
Yep.
And then I contacted you, and you gave me some different set of screws, and they were like the speed nuts or whatever you want to call them. And I had to customize that in the back of that piece.
Yeah.
Now we don't have to do any of that, which is awesome. And I really like the introduction of the brass inserts.
12-inch prototype thump cover.
Yeah.
For the 12-inch Neo. So
let me grab the actual grill for the speaker, because the speaker does come with a grill. But I have to use this because it's beautiful. Hold on. All right. So this is the grill that comes with the speaker, but this is pretty wide. It's way more than 12 inches.
Yep.
And so if we put it on this pod, this is literally the biggest you can make this pod.
It's as big as I'm going to make a speaker pod.
So because
until there's a 15-inch NeoPro.
It's not happening. But because this is only as big as it's going to get, this our factory grill just sits over it. So we're going to go ahead and use the grill that he provided.
That's right. So I made this especially for Bryan.
Man, I feel awesome about this. This is so cool.
Basically, this is our brushed stainless steel ABS plastic. It is extremely durable, very tough, and fits on the NeoPro perfectly.
That is awesome, man. Thank you very much for that,
problem.
by the way. So it'd be a nice introduction to the vehicle. Now, you stated you wanted to do some testing before and after. Now, right now I have the Vex 8 in that truck, and it is an extremely loud speaker, and it has a lot of mid-bass to it as well. But so is this speaker, and this is a ton more cone area.
Yep.
Going from an 8 to a 12, it's almost double the cone area.
That's right.
This should be almost like having two 8s in the truck.
I know.
Although it's a different motor design and a different speaker altogether. So I'm curious how it's going to work. To combat any type of vibration and resonance, like I said before, I used a product from Second Skin. It's a fantastic product, and it's called Spectrum Spray. But I didn't bring any of that with me, and to make things go a little quicker, we're just going to go ahead and put the regular Sundown Deadener on the back side of this pod.
Yep.
And we'll show you how you do that later on.
That's right.
So let's go ahead and get to installing this thing. One thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to bore you with taking off the door panel. You've seen me do that like 3 times already on camera, and the door panel on an 09 Sierra is really not that hard. So you guys have figured it out.
That's right. We'll show you the important and the fun bits, and then when if someone starts bleeding, we'll make sure
we'll make sure it's on camera. We're throwing up or crying.
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and get this thing installed. Woo! Well, we got the door panel off. Wasn't too hard. Had to remember how to do a couple things.
Yeah,
but we got it off. So here's the Vex 8 in the speaker pod that you guys made 3 years ago already.
I know. It's still holding up. So one thing to note is that there are no cracks in this pod. It's been holding up for 3 years with this really heavy speaker in it.
Yeah, that is the heaviest mid that we make, period. It's roughly 15 pounds, 12, 15 pounds.
It is a monster.
It's pretty damn heavy.
Yep.
So it did a good job.
That's right.
One thing we didn't talk about last time was the speaker grill that you made me.
Yes.
And that I had on there. I had a couple different, you gave me like a couple different ones, so I've kind of swapped them out over time, but it's held up too.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and get this pod off, and then we're going to go ahead and get the NeoPro 12 pod on, and we're going to see what we need to do with the door panel itself to get that to work.
That's right.
So we're just unscrewing the bolts through the backside. So I had to, just so you guys know, I had some speed clips in here and I glued them in place. Let me see if I can get a good view. See that right there? So I had speed clips and then I glued them using speaker glue essentially to the back of this, and that's what's held that in the whole time.
Did a great job.
So we're gonna go ahead and get this off.
Yep. Yeah, so somehow people break the pods. And I think it's really
too many ugga-duggas.
Too many ugga-duggas. This door panel is really good to install too because it is solid plastic. The biggest issue we have was with the 2000 to 2006 GM trucks and other vehicles have cardboard and vinyl, soft stuff. So it's not a rigid door. And they
cheaply made.
Cheaply made, yeah. So people think you have to crank down on it.
Yeah.
But you don't. You just, as long as everything's snug, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to vibrate.
Lift her up out.
There she goes. Very good.
All right. All right, so we got the speaker out.
Yep, little minor surgery required.
Yeah, well, that's all my fault. So on the back side of this is a bunch of glue from, and then I had the speed clips glued in there, and one of them got loose and was just turning around, so we had to kind of cut that area.
Yep.
That's my fault.
That's all right, we got her done. So now let's see, because I think getting the pod off may be more trouble than it's worth.
Okay.
Nah,
so
you know what? Let's take the pod off.
Take the pod off? Well, let's flip it around. Let's take a look at what I did, because I remember when I did all the deadening in the back of this door panel, I went to town with it.
Yes, you did. And it looks great.
So here's the butyl stuff that I use. That's just in the seam. Then I sprayed this with 3 or 4 coats of Spectrum spray. And we've got these nuts here that are also in that spray. I'm not sure how easy that's going to be to remove that.
I honestly don't think it'll be that bad. I mean, instead of using a wrench, we'll just put some pliers on it and zip them out. So let me go find some real pliers.
Jeez, look how gooped up that got.
I know, that's awesome. What kind of glue that is? I need some.
It's seam sealer / speaker glue.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we got all the screws out of this. I want to go ahead and try to pop this off. Like I said, I got a lot of junk and glue in here. Let's see. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Got it. There she is, the old pod.
The tiny one.
Yeah, the small one. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's tiny, but it's time to go ahead and see what it takes to put the NeoPro pod in here. All right, so we went ahead and took the pod off, and now we've got the NeoPro 12 pod on here, and it looks like we're gonna have to do some marking to cut up the rest of the plastic on the door panel. Again, we already cut this panel once. I don't care that it's getting cut. just be careful doing something like this because you can only do it once.
That's right. But again, sacrifice to the stereo gods.
Yes. So you are going to mark where we need to make these cuts.
Yep. So the end goal is to actually sound deaden the pod. The door's already been treated with the second skin, is that correct?
Yep.
But what we're going to do is we're going to have the sound deadener go from the pod and wrap around.
Yes.
So we're going to cut as close to the edge of the flange as possible. So with the pod in the correct place, we're going to just kind of get a rough mark of where we want to cut.
Yeah, reach up in there.
I know, get in there deep like. I don't even know if that's going to mark. Yeah, we got it a little bit.
They don't make right angle markers, do they?
They should. It's actually a great idea.
A new invention, there you go.
That's right, the custom speaker pods.
Right angle marker.
Right angle marker in collaboration with Sundown Audio. Go ahead and make this a little short.
We can cut it to fit later.
That's right. And then we'll just bring this guy down there and a happy little tree over here.
Yes, sir. That is a beautiful tree.
And then we'll just bring
round that
guy
off
right there. Yep.
Sweet. So we are going to lose this connection point right here, but that, you know, these things happen.
Yep. It depends on how big of a speaker you want to put in there.
That's right.
So
yep. Before we purposely left this, you can see we kind of did a little notch around. We're going to completely lose that this time around.
That's right.
And I put all new clips in this door, and I have butyl around it, and to try to keep it stuck to the door as best I can. And obviously you have to bolt it in place anyway.
Yep.
So next we got to cut that.
Yep. So now we'll get some cutting going on, get the Dremel out. We're going to use a Dremel with a rotozip bit.
All right.
So basically Dremel with a rotozip bit. Rotozip bit's going to give us the best penetration into the door. However, you lose control with one of these, so you must be extremely careful when using it.
Can I give it a shot?
You sure can.
I use that bit a lot, actually, in the speaker building industry.
Yes. There we go.
All right, so I'm gonna give this a shot. We'll see how it goes. Should I? No, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that little piece there.
Yep.
But I'm gonna go ahead and follow this, and we'll see how it goes. I need to leave my hands down.
Yep.
Between the door panel and the surface.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to grab that and pull it
Hard
out.
thing to yank it out.
All right. You do have to two-hand that because it wants to go. And I actually went a little bit above the lineup here. Hopefully, it's not too far.
Plenty.
So.
Yeah. That was very professionally done, Brian.
Well. I'm going to have to get to the back side real quick.
Yeah.
Let me flip that around. And we've got a little connection point here. I'm going to have to Dremel that out just a little bit here.
Come right up under there.
I believe that'll do it. Or,
you might need to hit right up in there.
Yep, I see that. All right. Let's see what that looks like. And we got this little spot right here. There we go. And all right.
Very good.
There's that. Now we just need to clean it off. I think we can keep this piece because that's another one of them clips that go to the door. I would rather not have to cut that off.
I agree.
So we'll keep that. to clean this off, test fit, and see what it looks like. All right. Yeah, let's test fit first. See what she looks like. Yeah, I think you did a pretty good job on that. I was actually kind of worried about this part because it comes up and over, and you did good, man.
Thanks.
That works good. So we're gonna go ahead and do some fine tuning on the cutting, and then we're gonna have to drill out the holes for the pod itself.
Yep.
And we'll get to doing that here shortly. So Brandon said he wanted to show me something. What is this?
Screw counter. I got tired of counting screws by hand. So I built.
Did you make this?
Yes.
All right. Smart guy over here.
Find a baggie. This is actually one of the very few things that come from overseas. Our little baggies. Even the plastic we make the pods with is made in Texas.
Nice. All right, check this out. Oh, ain't that something? So you don't have to count the screws anymore?
Nope. Does it automatically.
Wow. And so yeah, I've received a couple of baggies of those, and that's how you did it, huh?
That's it. That's how we do it.
Nice. Well, thanks for showing us.
Of course.
So now we got to mark, make sure this is set exactly where we want it.
Exactly where you want it.
And we're going to mark with the marker the holes where these screws go.
Yep. So what I like to do is start up at the top.
Alright, so right there.
Yep.
Okay.
So I like to do one and then get a screw in place.
It's plastic, it'll be alright.
Yeah, they bounce.
I'm sure it's not the first time.
No.
How's she looking?
Great.
Alright, good.
They're very durable. Scratch resistant.
So he's going to put a screw in place to hold that in. And then we mark the rest of the holes? Is it where we want it to be?
That is where we want it.
Alright.
Yep.
So hold there. If I can get it in the hole.
Get it in the hole.
And now we got the holes marked, and we got to drill them out now.
Yeah, we did get a little close on that one.
Yeah, we did get close.
The 90-degree marker would have been clutch at that
That's
point.
right.
The right angle marker.
So we're going to go ahead and drill all these out and get back. All right, so Brandon is pre-fitting the screws and the holes we just made.
Mm-hmm. Now, yes, there are a lot of holes on this pod, but it, again, is holding a 12-inch
Yeah.
speaker.
It's also the biggest pod you've ever made, I
It's
assume.
the largest pod I've ever made.
Now, you do dual 6.5s, and I believe dual 8s as well, right?
Yes, correct.
And it would be slightly this big, but it's a little narrower. This is very wide.
Wide. Very. It's a 12-inch speaker. It's twice as wide as a 6.5.
Sort of.
Sort of, almost. So I'm tightening the screws. Now keep in mind and pay very close attention, I am not using the impact of this impact driver. The only reason I am doing this is because it's convenient. And I don't have like an electric screwdriver.
Yeah, you could do it by hand.
You can do it by hand, and that hurts. You can use a drill, but basically all I'm doing is I'm just getting the nut to seat, and that's it.
Yeah, no ugga-duggas.
No ugga-duggas, very little torque. You know, as long as the screw doesn't spin, that's all you need. You go nice and slow, and that's it.
Cool, so we got the pod installed now, and we're going to do some deadening because it is plastic, and you can only make it so thick.
That's right.
So we're gonna go ahead and deaden this up. As you remember, I did the spectrum spray from Second Skin the last time around, but this time around we're gonna go ahead and do I've just got the regular Sundown 9036 deadener. So let's go ahead and flip this around real quick. Also, what we forgot to tell you, while we were working on this is he wanted to show me the cool little screw machine, screw counter, and then we totally realized we should have done black screws instead of chrome screws. But
after we got it installed, kind of like the way it looks.
Yeah, we're both the type of person where we don't want to do something over again. But we do have that stainless looking grill, so it'll kind of work with that. It's whatever. All right, so here's the back side. Let's see that. And what we're gonna do is and it's off camera, I have some butyl stuff. I'm gonna put it in the seams here. And we'll get the seams nice and airtight. And then we're gonna come around with the deadener and deaden some of this. I need to make sure that the deadener can stick onto this spectrum spray first, so I'm going to do a little bit of investigating first, and then we'll work with that. We may have to maybe scrape some of this off, and we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
Okay, so we're ready for deadener. We went ahead and wiped it with alcohol just to make sure it's super clean, and I do have a protective film on my door panel, so we wanted to make sure we wipe that stuff off too. Yep. So we're going to do the butyl real quick, and we're going to go ahead and do the deadener and bring that camera in a little closer so you can see what we do.
Yeah.
So we're just going to fill in the air gap. Well, there's not much of an air gap, but essentially we're filling in the gap between the pod and the panel. And this is called butyl tape, so to speak. And you can find it all over the place, pretty cheap on Amazon. Generally speaking, when you get a piece like this, depending on the shape, a lot of times what I do is I will fold it in half.
Am I not doing it right, Brian?
No, yeah, it's fine. I'll take it and I'll roll it like this. Kind of like we did back in the day with Play-Doh when you were a kid. And you can stretch it out. It's a little cold, so it doesn't stretch as good when you're cold, but something just like that.
Kind of get some shrinkage when you're cold.
Oh, dude, the shrinkage today, let me tell you. I won't show you, but I'll tell you. And the deadener should mix very well with this because the deadener is also made out of butyl.
Yep. I actually like this. This is great. And I actually like this material too. I mean, if you really wanted to go the extra mile and put this in between the pod and the door, you could.
Yeah.
The only issue I feel you would get from that is in the summer.
It might ooze out.
It might ooze out, man. Because I was thinking when you tighten the screws down with this stuff in the middle, you're not going to get the correct clamping
right
force.
And actually in a case like that,
yeah, so I guess I wouldn't recommend that at all.
The screws may want to back out over time.
Yep.
Maybe.
Or not back out, but just lose the clamping force as the rubber heats up, and so cancel that. That's a bad idea. Let's not do that. This is the better way to go.
Now, how do you think we should do the deadener? Like, here's easy, bring it up over.
Yep.
But up in here.
So my research has shown that it doesn't really matter that much as long as it's on there. Because, I mean, all you're doing with the deadener is eliminating any sort of motion.
Yep.
Right.
Which this section doesn't matter as much. It's this part that does.
Right.
You can even hear that difference.
Well, to be honest, you hear this. So in my car, I've got the passenger side's deadened, and the driver's side isn't. Because I'm still doing some testing side by side.
Okay.
What's interesting is that you actually get sound being produced out of here at higher frequencies. It's very strange. It sounds really weird. But that's at really, really, really high volumes. Normally, in most cases, you don't.
All right, so we've got the deadener going on here, and this is about as much as we're gonna do. We might put some on the panel too while we're at it. But we're gonna go ahead and heat this up real good. That way we know it's got a good adhesion. All right, let's see how that works. Might put a piece right here.
It was crazy how that pocket will resonate. Pockets in my car, I have one here and I've got another pocket up here, and this one just like acts like another speaker. That's my thing. There it is, Bryan. Oh, told you. See?
A little bit of blood.
A little bit of blood. And the sound button.
All right, so we got the deadener done, and here's what it looks like. Obviously, we focused mostly on the pod right there. It's not making any vibrations at all. So
None whatsoever.
I'd say we did a pretty good job.
That's right.
And then we had some extra left over from one sheet, so we just kind of threw it wherever on the panel in general, in the flat spots, because there's no such thing as too much deadener.
Never.
So there it is. It is ready to go in the truck. Woo! Let's go ahead and do that, Brandon.
Yes.
Let's do it.
High five.
All right, so it's time to get the speaker installed here. So first thing I'm going to do is hook up these wires. Brandon was nice enough to hook up these ferrules, so it makes the installation process a little bit easier. Boom and boom. Simple enough. Flip it around. And just like that. All right, fits just in place. So if we fit this, the grill has 4 holes. The speaker's got 8, so we're gonna go ahead and do these holes first, get the speaker in place, then we'll go ahead and put the grill on. Now it's time to put this grill on. And I think I'll fit the screw through first. There we go. All right, they are in and installed. We did have to put another spacer. So when he built these trim rings or these grills, he did put a spacer in there. However, we had to put a second spacer in because once you put the screws in, it kind of sucked it in a little bit, and it was almost touching the surround. So we brought it out another, we'll say 1/4 inch almost. So there it is, beautiful. We just turned it on for the first time, and my goodness, it's stupid. Guys, this is stupid. Don't do this. Nah, you should. If you can do this, if you can and you want to, you have to. So before we install the HF-R35s in the A-pillar, we need to make the pillars first.
That's right. We got to make the speaker pods to go in the pillars for those speakers.
Yeah. So he didn't make them before I got here. We're going to make them today. Actually, you're going to let me press some buttons on the machine?
Yes, of course.
So we're going to see how the speaker pods are actually made. Not the full process, because there are some secret sauce ingredients.
A little bit of secret sauce.
And we need to be careful with what we show.
Yep.
But you're going to see the really cool part at least, right?
Yes, that is correct. Sweet. But the coolest part is that we're in South Carolina. This is where everything is made. It's
only an hour and a half from me.
That's right.
It was a nice little leisurely drive this morning. So let's go ahead and make a speaker pod.
So an interesting note about this machine is that it was marketed to me by the company. Their marketing material includes making products for adult toys.
Oh.
I don't know how important that is for the video,
so how
but I just thought that was very interesting.
Have you made?
I've made none so far, unfortunately, with this equipment.
Maybe we'll do that later.
But yeah, you know, it's a British-built machine.
Okay.
And again, I'll say it, we're in South Carolina. Everything we do here is made in the U.S. So the process of thermoforming, and the reason we do thermoforming, is that it provides a much stronger product. Okay, so we have all of our different plastic sheets, which include all of the different finishes.
And it looks like they're being heated.
Yep.
They stay consistently hot in there. That way you can put them in this machine.
Yes, so keeping them hot speeds up the process. And then this machine here, thermoform, is a thermoform machine. It actually heats the plastic up to a point where it's soft enough where our molds will come up and meet the plastic. The air is pulled out, and then it forms the actual pod.
Sweet. So right now in this machine, you have the molds. They're inside, right? And then this part is the heater.
Yes.
That you just moved over into here. All right. And so right now we're waiting for that to heat up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So and right now there is a sheet of ABS. Is that what it is?
That's correct.
You have ABS inside of there getting hot, and then the mold's going to come up through. And that's the really cool part. But you're going to let me press the buttons, right?
I'll let you press the buttons.
All right.
The first one may not come out okay, but we're going to do it anyway. So here, I'll hold the camera.
All right.
And I'll get over here. So first thing you do is push this guy all the way back.
All right. Oh yeah, look at that steam.
And then you will push the two buttons on the side.
Two buttons on the side?
These right there. So you got one on the left and one on the right.
All right.
Yep, push those together. Nice and come up, and then we'll turn the vacuum on.
This is cool. Look at that.
There it goes. Now, so this is where the expertise comes in.
Okay, yeah.
So these products are not sellable because we have issues, right? So that's called webbing.
Okay.
And that's actually a defect.
Okay.
So
we got to see a defect.
That's right.
Sweet. B stock.
B stock. Nah, that's not even good enough for B stock. But we'll run another one.
Okay.
And then I'll show you the proper technique. And
it's nice to see mistakes. Mistakes happen.
That's right.
We're human. We make mistakes.
Exactly.
And machines make mistakes too.
That's right. And that's okay. A-pillars are typically a little bit more difficult to form, simply because they're small and tall.
So this is what he's talking about here. I'm going to not touch that because it's really hot. There's a piece that goes from here and across, and that would be considered the defect that he's talking about. So we're going to, off camera, we're going to go ahead and make a new one, and we'll be back. All right, so we finished up the molding process, and it came out of there. Or what's that process called? What would you call that?
Thermoforming.
Thermoforming. So we came out of the thermoforming machine, and now it's sitting up on this little pedestal. And what are we going to do here?
Now we are going to hand cut everything. So everything we make here is handmade. The thermoforming process, of course, is not, but everything here is done by hand, by true artisans.
That's right.
So we're going to cut the holes, we're going to drill all the mounting holes for the screws. We're going to cut the speaker opening and then actually cut the pod out itself and then bring it to the sander to finish it up.
Sweet. So I see you got a little divot there.
Yep.
Helps you center things.
drill is struggling.
New battery time?
I think we've used this drill so much, I think she's on her last legs.
Oh.
The battery's still good, just the drill, not so much. And now the true art form, cutting it out. And sorry for the mess. It's been
That just means you actually do your job.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't got time to clean around here.
That's right. Black Friday hit and it's been wide open, so thank you everyone for your support.
Hell yeah, man. Taking off the burrs.
Mm-hmm. Clean it up, make it a nice smooth edge. Cool.
And just like that, in a matter of minutes, we have a speaker pod.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that, 2 of them. That's pretty awesome. Now let's go ahead and test fit that.
Yes.
All right, so we made the hole just slightly smaller.
Yep.
And we're gonna go ahead and hollow that out just a little bit.
So normally if you would have this at your house, you don't have one of these tools. You can just use a sanding drum on a Dremel. Just go around very lightly and open it up, but since I have this, this is the easier way for me to do it here.
Oh wow, look at that. Come off of there. That's tight. Tight enough where you just unscrew it off.
Yeah, just screw it in, we don't even need the nuts.
All right, so there's the tweeter sitting in there. Obviously, I don't have the little nuts on the front side, and it sits in a pod like that. Now, this is an extremely big tweeter, so we may have to cut part of the A-pillar plastics to make this fit, but when we get to that point, we'll figure it out. Let's go ahead and get these installed. Woo! Yes. All right, so it's time to work on the A-pillars.
Well, I'm even in a different hat. Let's go.
So it's time to work on the A-pillars. So here's the old one. We're gonna go ahead and unscrew this from the A-pillar. Here's the new one that we just made. We're gonna put it on there, and we're gonna probably have to cut out some of this backside so that big old HF-R35 tweeter can sit in there.
That's correct.
We did some fitment on the other A-pillar before we started doing this filming, and we're good. Let's go ahead and get working on this. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this, and you can show us how we do the rest.
Now these two pods are the same, but we made a new one because the hole for the HF is a little bit smaller than the BTR1.
Okay, so I got the pod off. Now here's the new pod. Show us what we're going to do here.
All right, so what we're going to do is get it lined up to where it fits properly on the pillar. Okay? So yes, it is the same pod. The holes are in a different location because the other pods were made a very long time ago.
Yep.
But
a very long time, as in 3 years ago.
As in 3 years ago. I know, it's crazy. So get the pod where we want it. Now we're going to mark the holes, same as before with the door pods.
And they're only about a 1/4 inch off, 1/2 inch to where the old ones were.
You did pretty good, Brian. Right. Now this tweeter, since it is so large, and it is actually size doesn't matter. But this one, the way it installs, you have to install the pod or the speaker onto the pod before you install it on the pillar, because it's got a nut on the back. So
let's see what that looks like from the back side.
That
really fills that hole up.
Yes. Yes. That's when size matters.
Yep. So we're able to still kind of flush mount these, so to speak, which is awesome. I was thinking that we would have to stick that up a little bit, but it actually works just like that. Looks fantastic that way too.
So now the pod doesn't sit flush because the motor on that tweeter is hitting.
You'll see that gap there.
All right.
Yep. So we'll have to cut out some of that.
Yep, so we'll have to cut some of that out. We're a little bit more professional than that.
All right, so here is just a rough estimate where we're going to do some cutting.
Yep. Get my roto zip bit right here.
It don't have to look perfect, guys. It just has to work.
Just has to work.
You ain't gonna see none of that.
That's right. We'll pretty it up a little bit with the sanding drum.
Just mocking it back up again.
Yep, making sure everything fits the way it's supposed to. Get the holes lined up.
And the back side.
And everything is
Look at that.
good.
That works good.
Cool.
She fits.
So now we can get the wire. We're going to hook the wire up first.
Yep. So we actually made little connectors. Excuse me. So we made some little connectors. The original connectors that were in the A-pillars, actually, let me show you that. All right, so this wire was kind of short. I had it zip tied way back in there and it doesn't want to pull out anymore. So I soldered on some pigtails here, and we're gonna put the male side on the tweeter and then female side here, and it'll just plug right in. And we're just getting the tweeter tight in the pod.
With the logo and the proper orientation as much as possible.
And you can see the pigtail coming off the back side of it, and that'll plug right in. All right, we got it on there. Let's see. She looks purty, and there's just a little remembrance of the original. I'll have to show you on the other camera, but just itty bitty of the original hole that I made when I did the first install. But you can barely tell. And it looks fantastic. It's pretty heavy for an A-pillar.
For an A-pillar, for a tweeter, single tweeter?
Yeah, those tweeters are a good 2 pounds almost.
That's a nice one.
All right, let's go ahead and install this.
Slap it in.
Boom. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is make sure all these, because I got a ton of different wires that run up and down this thing. I need to make sure that they're not in the way. I had to zip tie some stuff up in here. Looks like we're good. And I gotta hook up this pigtail now. So I'm just gonna lay this across. Plug her in, make sure it snaps. I just gotta fish my wires in here and make sure nothing's gonna get pinched. Get the stupid mat out of the way. Okay. Make sure that this fits in place.
Gasket in there, yep.
All right, it's in there. Gasket's on good. Everything's clipped where it needs to be clipped. And we're good to go. So we got it playing.
Yep.
It's stupid.
It's bananas.
So yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, guys. We're gonna go ahead and turn this on. We've got some AI generated music so we don't get hit by a copyright. But we'll let you listen to it. Obviously, listening to it through a phone or a TV is not gonna be the same. This is ridiculous, guys. I do have some tuning to do after this. I'm gonna let these speakers break in for a couple weeks, and then I'm gonna get some tuning done. It's extremely bright at the moment, in my opinion. The tweeters are outrageously bright.
They are ridiculous, yes.
And I've got the tweeter. Actually, I haven't done anything with the gains, so everything is the same settings as it was before we took the other speakers out.
With the VEX and the BTs.
And loudness per watt on the tweeters, those HF-R35 tweeters are just insane.
Extremely sensitive.
I'm going to have, yeah, they're extremely sensitive. I'm going to have to turn down the gain on those a little bit, I think.
A lot of it.
And maybe turn up the gain a little bit on the NeoPros.
Possibly.
Once I get them broken, I think it'll be safe to do that. Mm-hmm. And then we definitely have to work on the sub stage now, because that sub is not keeping up with the front stage.
It's barely on.
Yeah. You actually don't really need a woofer. Like a general person in this situation does not need a subwoofer.
Yeah.
If you've got these a 12 inch in your, yeah, it's more than enough punch. So let's go ahead and let you guys listen to it real quick.
Tired.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. We really didn't have any hiccups.
Nope. It
so
was
to speak.
very, very
there
smooth
was
today.
Very minimal bleeding.
Just a little bit on the
his
sound
end.
deadener. Yep, just
Yep.
a sound
And
deadener, as always.
and he called it too. He said he was going to bleed when he does the sound deadener. So, but yeah, guys, check out customspeakerpods.com for if you buy Sundown speakers and you do not feel like putting forth the extra effort into doing custom door panels. In one day's work, you can do something that you would see it would take a week to do fiberglass wise.
More than that. I mean, doing the fiberglass is it's very time consuming, very expensive, and all that stuff. We can go into all the details, but you know, for a beginner system, even up to a moderate system, you know, speaker pods are the way to go. It's quick to install.
I'm really happy there's a company like this out there, because I am tired of doing fiberglass work. And if I had to do fiberglass work, this truck wouldn't have been done. So, and you know, and I used to do that stuff for a living, and I don't have the desire to do it anymore. So anyway, thank you again for watching. Check out customspeakerpods.com.
And sundownaudio.com.
Thank you. And the NeoPro version 4 12-inch, that's the speakers we have in there, and the HF-R35 Tweeters.
Yes.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Boom. Thank you, sir. That was good stuff.
That was fun.